Hi, welcome to my video on percent. This is the first video on percent. It's defining percent, changing percent to a fraction and a fraction to percent. Percent means hundreds, divided by 100, out of 100. The percent symbol is the two zeros with a bar slanted. Changing percent to a fraction, note, always reduce the fraction if possible. So 13%, percent means hundreds out of 100, so it's 13 over 100. 13 is prime, can't reduce. 7% is 7 out of 100. 7 is prime, can't reduce. 49% is 49 over 100. 49 can't reduce. 25% is 25 out of 100. And 25 out of 100 can simplify. 25 divided by 25 is 1. 25 into 100 is 4. So 25% is 1/4. 82% is out of 100. 82 out of 100. And it's even, so you divide by 2. 41, 50. Divide by 2. 100% is 100 over 100. And 100% is 1 when you simplify it. So as you know, 100% of something is all of it, 1. 150% is 150 over 100. We can cancel the zeros, dividing by 10. 5 into 15 goes 3. 5 into 10 goes 2. So 150% is 1 and 1/2, and as a that to leave it as that's an improper fraction. This is a mixed number, so either or. 14.3% is 14.3 over 100. Now, if we multiply the top and bottom by 10, then the bottom becomes 1,000. And the top becomes 143. So if you want to move the decimal and create a denominator instead of 100, 1,000, pause the video, work these out, and replay it to see if you're right. 41%, 41 out of 100. 9%, 9 out of 100. 20%, 20 out of 100. And again, you can divide by 10 by scratching the zeros. 2 into 2 goes once. 2 into 10 goes 5. So 1/5 is 20%. 75%, 75 out of 100. Notice GCF is 5 or 25. Let's divide by 25. 3. 25 and 100 is 4. So 3/4 is 75%. 160% is 160 over 100. Divide by 10, so you get 2 into 16 goes 8, 2 into 10 goes 5. So you get 8 over 5, or 5 into 8 goes 1, so there's 1 and 3/5. This is an improper fraction, 8 over 5, because the numerator is larger than your denominator, and if you change it, you get a mixed number. 7.5% is 7.5 over 100. And again, you can reduce it down. We can divide by 5, because 5 is in both of them. 5 into 75 is 115, so it's 1.5. 5 into 100 is 20. Notice it can reduce again by 5. I could have divided by 25 from the start. 5 into 15 goes 3, so it's 0.3. 5 into 20 goes 4. And we have a decimal, so that's multiplied by 10, top, bottom. That gives us 40 as a denominator and 3 as a numerator. So 3 over 40 is a fraction for 7.5%. Let's continue. Change fraction to percent. Let's reverse it. If we change a fraction to percent expressed with a denominator of 100, and percent is out of 100. So if you Example here is 3 over 100 is 3% because it's out of 100. 54%, 54 over 100 is 54% out of 100. 21 over 100 is 21% out of 100. 4.7 over 100 is 4.7%. 682 over 100 is 682%. 682. 7 out of 100 is 7%. So notice out of 100, fraction, denominator, you just write the numerator as a percent. 3 out of 10, well, let's multiply the bottom by 10 and the top by 10. That gives us 30 on the top, 100 on the bottom. 30 out of 100 is 30%. 7 out of 50, multiply the bottom by 2, top by 2, 14 out of 100. And 14 out of 100 is 14%. 25 times 4, 4 on top and bottom. 25 times 4 is 100. 11 times 4 is 44. So that gives us 44%. Remember, if your denominator is 100, the percent is the number on the top. 20 multiplied by 5, top and bottom. 20 times 5 is 100. 13 times 5 is 65. 65 out of 100 is 65%. 5 times 20 is 100, so 20 on the top. 2 times 20 is 40. 5 times 20 is 100. 40 out of 100 is 40%. 4, 1/4. Let's see, we multiply by 25, top and bottom. That gives us 25 over 100. 25 over 100 is 25%. And we have 1.8 over 10, so we multiply the numerator and denominator by 10. That gives us 18 on the top. Because when we multiply by 10, the decimal moves one place to the right. 10 times 10 is 100. 18 over 100 is 18%. Now, pause your video. You work these out and come back to see if you got all the answers right. 6 out of 100, 6%. 87 over 100, 87%. 39 over 100, 39%. 150 over 100, 150%. 13.9 of 100 is 13.9%. 9 out of 100, 9%. So note, out of 100, percent is on the top. Now we need a denominator of 100. So we multiply by 2. 100 on the bottom, 86 on the top. And that gives us 86%. 25 multiplied by 4, top and bottom. 100 on the bottom, 28 on the top. When you multiply, 28%. 20 times 5 is 100. Multiply the top by 5 is 15 on the top. In the numerator, 100 on the bottom. So that's 15%. 10, 9 out of 10, you multiply the 10 by 10. 9 by 10 to get 100 on the bottom and 90 on the top, which is 90%. 5 is multiplied by 20 to give me 100, so we multiply the 3 by 20. That gives us 60 on the top, 100 on the bottom, and that makes it 60%. 3/4, 4 is multiplied by 25 to give me 100, so I multiply the 3 by 25. And I have 100 on the bottom, 75 on the top. 3 times 25 is 75, so that gives me 75%. 14 out of 200. So if I reduce it down by dividing by 2, 200 divided by 2 is 100. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 7 over 100 is 7%. I have a 20, so I multiply by 5, top and bottom. 20 times 5 is 100. 12 times 5 is 60, so 6.0, so that's 6%. Note, each denominator above is a factor of 100. So every one of these denominators we have here is a factor of 100. like 50 is a factor of 100 times 2, 25 is a factor of 100, etc. So when you get a denominator that's a factor of 100, it's easy to work out your percent. Let's change it a little tiny bit now. As a strategy I'm going to use here. You might have seen it before, but let's go through it. You will see it many more times in the future, coming up in the future, in topics that you're going to do. Let's solve an equation for x. This is not too hard. If I have 2 times 5 equals 10, and I divide the left side by 2 and the right side by 2, the 2's cancel out. I get 5 equals 5. That's easy. If I have the same 2 times 5 is 10, the same as here. If I divide the left side by 5 and the right side by 5, then the 5's cancel out, and I get 2 equals 2. So what we're doing is, because you have an equation, if you divide both sides by the same number, or you multiply to both sides by the same number, it keeps it balanced. So in relation to 2 times 5 equals 10, if 2 times x equals 10, and I divide by 2 on both sides, the 2's cancel, I get x equals 5. If I divide both sides by 5, 5's cancel, I get x equals 2. So what am I doing over here? I'm doing here, but notice that 2 times 5 gives me 10. So notice that this is a multiplication, and the opposite to multiplication is divide. So it's reversing it. Same thing with 3 times 4 equals 12. If I divide both sides by 3, 3's cancel, I get 4 equals 4. If I divide both sides by 4, and it keeps it balanced, 4's cancel, I get 3 equals 3. So if 3 times x equals 12, and I divide both sides by 3, the 3's cancel, because 1 and 1, I get x equals 4. If I divide both sides by 4, the 4's cancel, and I get x equals 3. Remember, 4 over 4 is like, it's just the same as a fraction. Divide 4 into 4 equals 1, 4 into 4 equals 1, so 1 times x is just x. 1 times any number is that number. So let's do some more examples here. This is not too hard in solving. We'll use that in our percentages. We've used that in ratios in our videos that we're going to do on ratio and proportions. We're going to do solving equations. So here we go. If 2 times x is 14, divide by 2 both sides. The 2's cancel, x equals 7. Divide each side by 5. If I divide each side by 5, because it's a 5 there, the 5's cancel, and I get a 6. Remember, the 5's cancel, I get a 1 and a 1, just to make sure. And 1 times x is x. Divide each side by 3. 3's cancel, and you get 6. Notice 3 times what number gives you 18? The answer is 6. And notice we're dividing by 3. 3 multiplying by 3 and dividing by 3 cancels each other out. 7. 7. 7's cancel. X equals 4. 7 times 4 is 28. Practice. You work these out and see if you get the right answer. But before I do this one, just look. 4 times what number gives you 20? You can see that's a 5. But if we go through dividing both sides by 4, cancel it out, we will get the 5. This is great now because you can see the number. But if this was decimals and fractions and everything else, you would have trouble. So following this procedure, it'll always work. Divide both sides by 8. X equals 3. Divide both sides by 9. Cancel. X equals 4. Divide both sides by 6. 6 cancels. X equals 42 divided by 6, 7. Divide both sides by 10. Cancel. X equals 8. 10 times 8 is 80, right? Divide both sides by 7. 7's cancel, and I get a 3. 7 times 3 is 21. So we're going to need that coming up. Just a little skill to work through. Now, if two fractions are equal, a over b equals c over d, then a times d equals b times c. In other words, two fractions are equal. top and the bottom are multiplied here, and the top and the bottom are multiplied here. Like they call it cross multiplication. But when we do this, we've got to remember that B and D can't be 0. Got to be greater than 0. They got to be positive numbers, greater than 0. Not allowed to have a 0. And to illustrate that, if 2 over 3 is 4 over 6, then 2 times 6 equals 3 times 4. 2 times 6 equals 3 times 4. Notice these two fractions are equivalent. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. These are equal. By cross multiplying, so that means we're right because we got 12 equals 12. We know we're right. 3 times 15 equals 5 times 9. 45 equals 45. Notice 3 times 15 equals 5 times 9. 4 times 14 equals 7 times 8. 4 times 14, 7 times 8. 4 times 14 is 56. 7 8s are 56. So we know, because right here you multiplied by 2 to get 8, you multiply 7 by 2 to get 14. So they're equivalent. Practice. Work these out. Come back, see if you get the answers right. 1 times 16 equals 8 times 2. 16 equals 16. Correct. 4 times 15 equals 5 times 12. So 60 equals 60. 16 times 2 equals 8 times 4. 16 times 2, 8 times 4. 32 equals 32. Now sometimes when we multiply, we can go 2 times 16 or 16 times 2 because we know that multiplication is commutative. Like 6 times 7 is the same as 7 times 6. So we could put the 2 or the 6, 2 or the 16 first. It's your choice. If the denominator of a fraction is not a factor of 100, like we had on the previous page, like a 25 or a 10 or a 20, the fraction can be written equal to x over 100 and then solved. This is why we did the previous page, so follow me. X over 100 is out of 100, so x is the percent. So writing x over 100, which is out of 100, that x on the top is your percent. So let's practice. So what about we write x over 100 equals 1/8. That x over 100 equals a fraction. Cross multiply. X times 8 is the same as 8 times x. You can go x times 8 or 8 times x. You can go 1 times 100 or 100 times 1. That gives us 100. Now 8 times x is the same as 8x. Any number in front of a variable is understood to be multiplication. So we divide both sides by 8. The 8's cancel. I could leave that multiplication sign there or just write 8x. Canceling that, I get an x. Remember, I get a 1 and a 1, so it cancels out. 1 times x is x. And now I got to divide 8 into 100. So 8 into 100. So if you got a calculator, it makes it easier. 8 into 10 goes 1. I get an 8. 10 subtract 8 is 2. Bring down your 0. 2 8s are 16. And you get a 4. So you get 12 and 4 over 8. And that's 12. 4 over 8 is a half. So that becomes 12 and 1/2%. So letting the fraction equal to x over 100 and solving it out will give you your percent. So if we let this one equal to x over 100 and cross multiply, 40 times x is just 40x, and 100 times 7, I could write it out as 700 or 7 times 100. But when you get used to it, you'll do your multiplication in your head, makes it shorter. Now I'll divide by 40. Cancels out. Remember they're ones. 0 cancels. So I get 4 into 70. So if I have a calculator, I divide. 4 divided into 70, the decimals around the end, so that's okay. Move it up. 4 into 7 goes once. 4. Subtract to get a 3, bring down to 0. 4 7s are 28. So I get a 28, a 2. So I get 17 and 2 over 4. 17 and 2 over 4 is 17 and 1/2 when it reduces down. 2 over 4 is 1/2. So that's 17 and 1/2%. Not too hard. I could put it on the other side like x over 100, but then the x is not in the top part or the bottom here. But it still makes no difference. I can still multiply and get 2 times 100 is 200, and 3 times x is 3x. Now the x is on the right side, but that makes no difference because I can still divide both sides by 3. So if you put your x over 100 on the left side, then you can see that 8 times x stays on this side, but it can go on the other side. It still works the same, left or right. You still work it through. So what is 3 divided into 200? 3 sevens, nope. 3 sixes, 18. Try and get you 2. Bring down your 0. 3 sixes are 18 and 2. So that becomes 66 and 2 over 3, which is 66 and 2/3%. Practice these, work them out. Remember, you use a calculator to do the division. I prefer to use my head and my pencil. Make it equal to x over 100. Cross multiply. 16 times x is 16x. 100 times 3 is 300. Divide by 16, both sides. 16's cancel. And I can reduce this down to make it, let's see, will 4 go into, let's divide by 2 first. Right? Divide by 2 again because it's still even, so I get a 4 and a 75. Now I divide 4 into 75. 4 divided into 75. And the decimals are already on the end. Let's move it up. 4 into 7 goes once. 4, 35. 4 9s are 36, so it's an 8. 4 8s are 32, and I get a 3. So that's 18 and 3 over 4. So as a percent, it's 18 and 3/4%. Number 2, let it equal to x over 100. Cross multiply. 40 times x equals 7 times 100, 700. Divide both sides by 40. Cancels out. X equals, the zeros cancel. So I get 4 divided into 70. 4 into 7 goes once. 4. Subtract, I get a 3. Bring down your 0. 4 into 30 goes 7. 4 sevens are 28, and I get a 2. So that's 17 on the top and 2/4. 17 and 2/4 is 17 and a half. So that's 17.5%. Number 3, let it equal to x over 100. Just takes time to write it out, but it's not very hard. So notice you got 60 times x. 11 times 100 is 1100. Divide by 60, both sides, and it cancels. Remember, we got 1 and 1, so 1 times x is x. X divided by 1 is 1, so the zeros cancel, you're dividing by 10. So I'm dividing 66 into 110. And that goes once. Subtract, I get a 5, bring down to 0. 6 8s are 48, and you get a 2. So that's 18 and 2/6, which is 18 and 1/3. So as a percent, 18 and 1/3%. Number 4, 5 over 12, let it equal to x over 100. Cross multiply, 12 times x, 12x. 100 times 5, 500. Divide by 12, both sides. Cancels out. And this is even, so you can divide by 2, 6 and 250. So I have to divide 6 into 250. 4 6s are 24. 25 subtract 24 is 1. 6 into 10 goes once, and I got a 4 left over. So the answer is 41 and 4 over 6, which is 41 and 2/3. So that's 41 2/3%. So 5 over 12 is 41 2/3%. And we have another one, x over 100 equals 2 over 15. Cross multiply, 15x, x times 15, 15x, 2 times 100 is 200. Divide by 15, cancels out, x equals 5 goes into 15 3 times, 5 goes into 200 40 times. So I'm dividing 3 into 40 once. Remember the decimal's on the right, so I just move it up. 3 into 4 goes once, 3 times 1 is 3, subtract, I get a 1, bring in a 0. 3 into 10 goes 3, 3 3s are 9. So I have a 1 left, so I get 13, and 1 is my remainder over 3. So that's 13 1/3%. Good way to do it, especially when you can't get your denominator nicely. Work it out like I just showed you. Anyway, if you like my video, then you can click on my like button, subscribe button, my notification bell, and if you want, write a comment on my video. And you want to visit my math website, mathfullyexplained.com, and you get information about me, my degrees and teaching experience, and information about my teaching strategies I'm going to use in my videos. That's in this section. And the section on content, that's going to be on my YouTube channel, you'll have the topics, the number of videos on each topic, and the topics that are completed will be in black font, and the topics to be completed will be in red font. They're going to be done in the near future. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.